Hi, my name is Brad Emery, and I wanted to take a little bit of time tonight to take a look at my artifact for Standard 4, and this is component 4.4. I've engaged faculty in gathering, synthesizing, and using data to evaluate the quality, coordination, and coherence of the school's curriculum, instruction, and assessment practices. When I first took a look at this, it seemed very overwhelming. So I've decided to break it down a little bit and discuss what does it look like to do this on a smaller scale. How have I had the opportunity to help collect data and use that data in a way that guides instruction, and use that data in a way that looks at the coherence of our school's instructional practices. So for this artifact, for this activity, I chose to take a look at our professional development that we implemented when choosing a new math curriculum. So I was able to be more assistance than I normally would in something like this because I had experience from a previous school of working within the curriculum that we chose. The curriculum was Go Math, and so it was a big shift on a curriculum level for most of the teachers. It had a lot stronger digital component and a lot more present digital component. And then just the way that we looked at math and the way it was structured was quite a bit different than the older curriculum that the teachers were familiar with. So that gave me an opportunity to be a part and step in and work alongside some of my colleagues in a way that I had not up to that point. I was able to visit with the teachers and hear how they were using this in their classrooms, and had some different teachers come and ask for assistance on getting started with different things, or just figuring out the curriculum and the online portion. And in doing that, I took the opportunity to visit with them and just to hear what was it looking like in their room. And so from an administrative perspective, thinking through all this in light of my schooling, my graduate courses, it gave me a chance to just look back and think, well, so how are we keeping this coherent? And honestly, in the first couple of years, it's just not. That's not realistic to expect in a small school like ours without a lot of training and a new curriculum. It's just not going to happen. But as we are progressing into years 3, 4, 5 here, we should be seeing more coherence. Realistically, what I find is we don't have a full-time elementary principal, and the fact of the matter is the lack of a consistent leader and someone who's on top of this, from what I can tell in my conversations, has led to a pretty decent lack of coherence. We're all using the Go Math resources, but the way in which we use them, the extent to which we use them, and the manner is all different from grade to grade and classroom to classroom. Some people, I know at the older upper elementary level, are relying heavily on the digital component, using that to both instruct and to assess students. In the 3rd and 4th grade band, I know I use it primarily as a supplemental practice, and more so that students can see real world application, or at least word problems and problems as they're going to see in upper grades and on testing. But I take a step back to look at multiplication and some of these core concepts because I really find it important to dig in deep and make sure we understand it in a way that the book can tend to distract from because of the multitude of ways that they want students to work. And then I know on the younger level, there were a few years at 2nd grade, had a teacher who followed the book every day and worked straight through that curriculum. And this year that's been loosened up a little bit with some new teachers. I know at the 1st grade and kindergarten level, they feel the need to add in some things that aren't in the Go Math book, or supplement some of the resources there. So as far as our coherence, we don't really have a structure for what a math class looks like. It's going to be different depending on which grade level you're at. And as far as the curriculum we're using, we're all using it, but you're not going to see a consistent routine or a consistent language or a consistent vocabulary coming from that. And so Some of that, like I mentioned, is a small school and a single teacher in each grade level, with the exception of our lower grade levels. Some of that is coming from the lack of a principal at this point in time, since our superintendent already has a lot of other responsibilities and just can't devote his time in this way. And that lack of coherence isn't causing huge academic deficits, but it definitely creates a bit of more of a learning curve at the beginning of each year as students have to figure out what does math look like in this classroom with this teacher this year. And so if I put on the lens of an administrator and consider, well, what would be an ideal situation here, or how could we fix this, I would love to see someone who was able to come in and get a better grasp of what everyone's doing, and then have at least a few unifying principles or routines or strategies or ideas that we all follow, so that students have some consistency that they can pull from year to year as they're going through math. So again, this was a large standard to take a swing at here, and I wasn't able to address all of it. But for the purposes of this artifact, for the purposes of this activity, it was really good for me to have an opportunity to reflect on and look at what does coherence look like for our curriculum, for our math program in our school, and what would I do, given the opportunity to improve that coherence to create a stronger bond and a stronger line of learning or strand of knowledge throughout the grades. So thank you for taking the time to consider this.